For American F-15E Strike Eagles, call signs Eagle 11, Eagle 12, Eagle 13, and Eagle 14, launched from Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. They flew at 26,000 feet, 140 kilometers off Iran's coast, conducting a routine patrol in international airspace. Officially, it was a presence demonstration as part of joint U.S. Kuwaiti exercises. In reality, it was a probe, testing Iranian air defense reactions after a string of incidents in the Strait of Hormuz and Israel's recent strike on Natanz. That day, Kuwaiti air defense was on elevated alert. After the escalation between the U.S. and Iran, Kuwait had reinforced its Patriot PAC-3 batteries and Sky Sabre, the British CMM system, deployed around Ali Al Salem and along the coast. And /MPQ 53 radars ran in a passive posture, catching reflections. Jammers were set to low power. Kuwaiti commanders had issued a clear directive. Any aircraft entering the 120-kilometer zone from Iran's coastline without prior authorization is to be treated as a potential threat. 442. The lead, Eagle 11, Major Jacob Hawk Reed, noticed an energy spike on his LR, 56M, illuminators, Kuwaiti Patriots. He called out on the radio, bandit radar lock, turning to 090, climbing. But it was already too late. A Kuwaiti Patriot PAC-3 MSE battery, deployed 45 kilometers south of base, had acquired 4 targets. The operator, Captain Ahmed Al-Ghafri, saw the signatures of F-15ES on his screen. The mismatch between predicted and actual tracks was 0.7 arc minutes. The Americans had drifted slightly toward the disputed zone. The order came down from the Kuwaiti Control Center. Lock. Fire on 4 targets. At 4 hours 43 minutes and 18 seconds, the first PAC-3 MSE interceptor punched out of its canister. Then the second, third, and fourth, 6 seconds apart. The missiles climbed, then transitioned to active homing. Speed, Mach 5+. Terminal agility high enough to engage maneuvering targets. Inside Eagle 11, Reed saw the warning on the ALR, 56M, missile attack. For inbound, Mach 5+, range 58 kilometers. He shouted, "Brake left, chaff flares." The jet snapped into a hard turn, dumping clouds of chaff and burning flares. The other 3 F-15ES did the same. But the PAC-3 MSE was built for exactly the scenario. Its ASA seeker was hardened against jamming and could switch to an infrared channel. The first missile punched through the decoys and, at 4 hours 44 minutes and 29 seconds, struck Eagle 11's right engine. The blast tore away half a wing. The fighter rolled into a spin. Reed and his WSO ejected 4 seconds before the aircraft hit the water. The second missile caught Eagle 12. The explosion ripped through the center fuselage. The aircraft broke apart in midair. The pilot and WSO were killed instantly. The third missile reached Eagle 13 as it was descending. A direct hit into the cockpit. The fighter detonated. Its crew never had time to eject. The fourth missile struck Eagle 14 in the tail. The aircraft ignited, but the pilot managed to eject. The WSO was killed. 4 hours 45 minutes and 41 seconds. 4 American F-15ES have been shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses in 2 minutes 23 seconds. Debris fell into the sea. Parachutes blossomed over the waves. Kuwaiti radars registered 3 distress beacons and 2 thermal signatures on the water. In the control center, Captain Al-Ghafri took off his headset. All 4 targets destroyed. No losses on our side. He knew it wasn't a victory. It was a shot after which silence was no longer possible. 446. The duty officer, Lieutenant Saad al-Materi, stared at the screen. Signal loss from Eagle 11, 12, 13, and 14. 4 blips vanished within 140 seconds. That's not an avionics failure. That's a shoot down, he said quietly. The base commander, Brigadier General Fahd al-Ahmad, raised the alarm instantly. General quarters. Air threat. Launch SAR. The flight line came alive. 2 UH-60M Black Hawk and 2 AH-64E Apache were already spinning up for search and rescue. Kuwaiti Air Force F/A F-18 and Eurofighter Typhoon jets were readied for combat air patrol. A U.S. E-2D Hawkeye already in the air swung its radar and recorded for bright thermal flashes and debris falling at 28 degrees 42 minutes north, 48 degrees 21 minutes east. The Kuwaitis didn't try to hide it. At 4:55, the official account of the Ministry of Defense of Kuwait posted a short statement. 4 unidentified fighters entered the air defense zone without authorization. The targets were destroyed in accordance with rules of engagement. Radar video went public. 4 Patriot PAC-3 MSE interceptor tracks, and the targets dropping out. At Ali Al Salem Air Base, pride and horror mixed in the same breath. Patriot operators hugged each other. We shot down 4 American F-15s. Senior officers said nothing. They knew it. Downing 4 U.S. fighters was a red line for the United States. At 5:08, the first Black Hawk reached the crash site. Debris floated in the water. 4 parachutes and life rafts. They recovered the Eagle 11 pilot and weapons systems officer. Both were conscious but had burns and fractures. From Eagle 14, only the pilot was rescued. The other 6 crew members were dead. As the helicopters headed back, U.S. satellites register activity at the Kuwaiti base. Patriot batteries reloading, radars going dark. The Kuwaitis understood a response was coming. In Washington, D.C., where it was 2012 on March 1st, the president was pulled from bed. The National Security Council assembled in the Situation Room. The Central Intelligence Agency director confirmed 4 F-15Es shot down by Kuwaiti Patriot PAC-3 air defense. 6 killed, 2 wounded. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We have the battery coordinates. We can strike with AGM-158 JSSMER from the carrier in 45 minutes. The president was silent for 18 seconds. Then, prepare a precise response. Only Kuwaiti military assets involved in the attack. No civilian casualties. And draft a speech to the nation. In Kuwait, General Al-Ahmad watched the footage of Americans being pulled from the sea. We shot down 4. They lost 6 people. He knew the triumph wouldn't last. America would not forgive. 5:44. From a USS Abraham Lincoln, 6 F divided by a -18E Super Hornet and 2 EA-18G Growler launched. Mission: suppress and destroy the Patriot PAC-3 batteries that had shot down the F-15ES. Weapons: AGM-88 harm for the radars, AGM-158 JSSMER for the launchers. The Growlers switched on powerful jamming. Kuwaiti radars began to go blind. Kuwait was waiting. The 3 remaining Patriot batteries lit their radars for only 10 seconds, just long enough to get a lock. PAC-3 MSEs launched again. But this time the Americans were ready. Harm streaked toward the emitters. 3 missiles hit the radars. Heavy blasts lit up the night desert. 1 PAC-3 still managed to acquire a Super Hornet. It punched through the chaff cloud and slammed into the left engine. The jet caught fire. The pilot ejected over the water. So our helicopters were already inbound. The Growler and the 5 remaining Super Hornets pressed on. JSSMERs flew low, contouring the terrain. At 6:02, they struck 2 launchers and a PAC-3 missile storage site. The explosions were visible from 80 kilometers away. Fire and secondary detonations continued until dawn. Kuwait lost 4 radars, 3 launchers, and 12 PAC-3 missiles. The U.S. lost 1 Super Hornet, and the Growler took minor damage. At 6:18, the Pentagon confirmed, targets neutralized, losses minimal. The carrier group began moving south under F-35C Lightning II cover. In Kuwait City, the Emir convened an emergency meeting. The defense minister said, we shot down 4 F-15s, but they destroyed our batteries. He understood the balance had shifted. Kuwait had lost key air defense elements in the north. Now American aviation could operate almost with impunity. At 7 o'clock, the United States president delivered a brief statement. Today our fighters came under an unprovoked attack by an ally. We responded proportionally. We do not seek conflict, but we will protect our people. Kuwait responded an hour later. This was a misidentification error. We regret the losses. By 10 o'clock on March 2nd, 2025, the wreckage of 4 American F-15Es still lay in sand and water. Kuwait recovered the bodies of the 6 fallen aircrew and transferred them to the United States through neutral territory. America recovered all survivors. 2 were wounded, but in stable condition. Both sides claimed victory. Kuwait: we shot down 4 American fighters. This was a defense of our sovereignty. The U.S.: we neutralized aggressive air defense elements. Our losses were minimal, and the response was precise. The world held its breath. Brent crude spiked to $142 per barrel. The Strait of Hormuz became a high-risk zone. The United Nations called an emergency session. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates expressed deep regret. Israel stayed silent, but everyone understood the next move could be theirs. At Ali Al Salem Air Base, Kuwaiti Patriot operators said nothing. They had downed 4 F-15Es, but lost key batteries. General Al-Ahmad looked at the smoking positions. We paid too high a price. Aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, the crew held a memorial ceremony. For flags were lowered. The pilots stared at the horizon. We'll be back. And next time they won't be. Kuwaiti sand was coated with a layer of ash and titanium fragments. The clock kept ticking. For both sides, only in one direction. The conflict hadn't begun yet, but it was already inevitable.